Yesterday, a battling performance, but the game ended with a 1-0 win for Manchester United. Steve, let's come to you first on this one. On balance, did we deserve a point out of that game?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think. I mean, United would have complained if we'd snatched a point, because that's what they do. But no, I think we were well worth something. But unfortunately, the difference was one individual moment of quality with the finishing from Bruno Fernandes, where, I mean, let's be honest, he's done nothing in the game. But we've left him unmarked on the edge of the area, and I mean, credit to him, it's a great finish for the goal. But apart from that, I thought we were excellent. Created chances, caused them plenty of problems, and it was just that final little finish, I think, that that just wasn't quite there for us yesterday. But again, plenty of promising sort of positive things to come from the game. I mean, Lavia again was outstanding in the centre of midfield. Bella-Kotchap at the back. Couple of brilliant sort of late interceptions that were basically going to prevent a goal. And yeah, I mean, I think we were, to be honest, we were solid throughout. I don't think there's anybody you could say that kind of even had a mediocre game. Even the players that were taken off fairly early in the second half, like El Yunusi, for example, he was pretty good first half, I thought. Tailed off a little bit after the break, but then Stu Armstrong comes on and basically picks up where he left off. So no, we were pretty good, I thought. And yeah, just one of those things where finish doesn't quite come off. I mean, De Gea unfortunately has only had one real save to make. And that was a header that was basically straight at him from Aribo. I mean, I think literally a foot either side, and I don't think he saves it at the pace it comes at him. So that's unfortunate, but I mean, at the end of the day, we've not beaten them at home for. I mean, was it 2003 the last time
It's a long time. Yeah.
Last time we beat them at home, and it's just one of those opponents who we just seem to have a problem with. It's annoying, particularly given the sort of arrogance from their fans, even though they're in absolute shambles at the moment as a football club, and they have been for best part of a decade. Which, for those of us who kind of grew up as a sort of child of the 90s for the most part, where basically everybody at school was all the glory hunters were Man United fans. To see them sort of on Facebook sort of airing their woes for the last couple of years has been absolutely glorious.
It's been a joy, hasn't it? It's been an absolute joy. Jacob, you've watched the game twice now, I think. Was it just lacking something going forward? Is that where we missed out yesterday?
Yeah, I think so. It's exactly what everyone really knows anyway. But what I did enjoy, like the guys have said, I liked how solid they were and how much they were so well drilled in the shape, considering the whole pre-season was spent in a different formation, different way of playing, and he's just thrown it all to one side. I said, we're going to go back to the back four, but we're not going to play the same as we did last year, but similar. So I quite enjoyed that. I thought the three new signings, in particular, were really good. I thought Aribo, especially in that first half, caused Malacia all sorts of problems. Lavia, again, I just think he's fantastic. And I saw against Spurs, I thought how good he was in possession. But every single time I see him, there's more that he adds to his game. And Jadon Sancho just put something on his Instagram about an hour ago saying what a top player Lavia is. So I think that's certainly encouragement for the future. And Bella-Kotchap, I just done a piece on him. I think he embodied it, because he is raw. He's very similar to Salisu in his characteristics, but he was so composed. And I think that just went spread throughout the team. They all knew their jobs. And like you said, I can't really remember Man United really carving through him at any point. And I think that's a lot of encouragement for those that want to stick with a back four, because it shows Arsenal that actually some of these guys can defend 1v1 and they are, defensively solid. So I think there's a lot of encouragement. And, like you say, I think there does need to be that little bit more telling quality going forward. But everyone knew that anyway.
Let's get on to the penalty that wasn't a penalty, Glenn, because I know that we can probably spend about an hour discussing this. Yeah. Mark says, I'd be interested to know your thoughts on the penalty shout. I heard one pundit say that it shouldn't have been a penalty because McTominay wasn't looking at the ball. Since when's that been a rule? And also the ball came in 30 yards. He had plenty of opportunities to watch it, but he was too busy grappling with Adams. So what was your take on that? And we're not really any further clearer with the rules, it seems.
If I'm being charitable to McTominay, he's like, as you said, he's grappling with Adams. Adams has chested it down. He hasn't meant to handball it, but at the end of the day, it's hit his hand. Adams was trying to chest it down to himself, and McTominay's taken the next touch with a sort of swinging hand, and then it's hit his other hand, and it's mad. I mean, Andy Madley didn't give it straight away. Instantly he waved it away, and you assume that VAR had a look at it and decided that because he touched it twice, it was juggling, and there's no rule against juggling. There is a rule against handball is a rule, but juggling is not a rule. So that's probably why he got away with it. I don't know. It's mad. I thought it was interesting on Match of the Day that they highlighted one that got given against Villa last week, where it was a header from close range that hit someone on the hand, and they gave it a penalty, and they apparently PGMOL said that shouldn't have been a penalty. So they were implying on Match of the Day that probably counted against us. But it's the old consistency thing again, isn't it? So great. Have we missed out because they gave one to someone else last week that was vaguely similar? I don't understand how it's not a penalty, having seen it, 3 or 4 times. It just seems ridiculous. But are we surprised? No. And Ralph's reaction was much the same as mine. I think he said, well, he's hit it 3 times, but apparently that's not a penalty. What can you do? He just probably wanted to keep his 20 grand in his pocket rather than having to pay it out for what would be a perfectly reasonable complaint. Would it have been given at the other end? Probably. Would it have been given at Old Trafford if the roles were completely reversed? Almost certainly. You want to get annoyed about it, but there's not a lot of point. It's just one of those things you've got to suck it up. There'll be another one next week for someone else that will get given. The rules seem to change every week, and no one knows what the rules are anymore with handball.
It does seem that. Vanessa says it was a bonus of seeing some NBA skills from McTominay yesterday. Steve, are we lacking a bit of experience in terms of getting in the ref's ear, do you think? Is that one of the things you get when you've got younger players like we have? I remember when we were playing behind closed doors during COVID, and you could hear Jack Stevens in the referee's ear from sort of start to finish. Do you think we're missing that bit of experience at the moment, or is that irrelevant because they've checked it and we're just never going to get those kind of decisions?
I guess there's something to that. I think when you've got experienced players who have seen it all, they know which buttons to push with certain referees. Kevin Nolan was an absolute expert at this back through his career at Bolton and West Ham and whoever else he played for, I can't remember. And yeah, just certain players just constantly chirping in the referee's ear. But if you do it in a certain way that kind of gets you on side with the ref in terms of sort of being sort of friendly with them to an extent, but then when the big decision comes, hopefully you're going to get that 50-50 called in your favor. But I'm not sure that would have really necessarily helped us in this situation, because there weren't any players anywhere near the referee at the time. So it's not one of those where, like if Prowse, for example, is kind of that senior player, if he's still 30 yards away from the referee, he's not sort of in his ear saying, "Come on, ref, that's clearly got to go our way."
Che Adams went full Braveheart on him, didn't he? He sort of like sprinted from the incident straight to Andy Madley, and the game was going on, and the ball happened to drop to him whilst he was.
It was interesting. The ball didn't actually then go out of play for about 2 minutes, I think. So while it was all going on, it was like, well, I mean, are we still going to have a check at the point that it does eventually go out? But obviously they were obviously looking at it at the time. But I mean, the talk about sort of seeing NBA skills, I mean, I'm pretty sure that would be deemed travelling, wouldn't it?
Travelling, yes. Moving with the ball, yeah, not good. Glenn, I just want to talk about the defensive unit as a whole yesterday, because Ralph was talking about how we seem more comfortable with a back four, and it feels like he he knows now his centre-back pairing, and he probably wasn't sure going into the season. But they must have impressed you yesterday, because I thought they did brilliantly well.
Well, I think I said back at the start of the season, that he probably in his mind wanted to play Bella-Kotchap and Salisu, but didn't trust them to form a pairing. It's a natural right foot, left foot pairing. On the face of it, they're two athletes. They're both raw. Obviously, they're both relatively young. It was almost like, I think it's been well documented that he didn't trust that, so that's why he put the third defender in there. Almost by accident against Leeds, he kind of threw that back four together, and it's like a switch has been flicked with certain players. Also being able to trust Musa as an out-and-out left back. There was a couple of naive bits of defending yesterday where he kind of went running out to, I think, Dallo, is it, the right back, and he got done a couple of times, simply because Dallo almost waited for him and then nicked the ball round him, and that set up a chance in the first half. So, it's not going to be perfect, but I think those four players, they really have stepped up. And it's the same thing when you watch the England national team. You want to see a back four, because it enables you to get more of your sort of more attacking players on the pitch, and it certainly seems to work for us. Giving us benefits further up the pitch, enabling us to press more. So, I'd be quite happy for that. You would think that Perot will come back in when he's fully fit. But at the moment, I don't see any reason whatsoever that we should revert to a back three. Maybe if he decides to do it against someone like Arsenal, who he's done it before. But certainly for a normal game against an opposition that we can compete with, I definitely don't see any reason at all to change it. And if you want another slap in the Daily Mail's face, is the way those lads defended in that instant in the first half, where you got
just throwing themselves at it.
Carl Walker-Peters nearly got his head kicked off in that,
Yeah.
and then Bella-Kotchap throwing himself at the ball, and the expected save from Bazunu at the near post. All that sort of stuff is, these are boys who want to defend. They don't want to be passive, which was my criticism at the start of the season. They want to they want to throw themselves in front of the ball. They want to affect the strikers. They want to make it difficult for them to score goals. Keep it going.
Sonny says, evening guys, shame about the result, but feeling positive, especially with Bella-Kotchap. I know, Jacob, you talked a little bit about some of the players, but he was one in particular I thought could be decent in both boxes.
Exactly. I thought his marauding runs were just a part of a byproduct of being in the back three, but it seems like he's actually doing it now, even in a partner in Salisu. So I think that's really pleasing. If he can just slightly keep down his shots sometimes and just be a little bit, just calm down, just calm down. He might be getting a nosebleed in that final third, but I think he will score. It's a bit like Joel Matip at Liverpool. I think it's really quite useful when a team like Man United are just parking the bus in the last 15 minutes. You have a centre back that can drive forward and commit players towards the ball and try and disrupt an opposition low block. I think that could be quite useful, and I just hope sooner rather than later one of those shots doesn't find top of the northern and actually goes in.
Yeah.
But for 20 years old, I think the way he's adapted and come in, he's looked really, really solid, and I thought he would dive in a lot more. His decision making in terms of when to stand up and when to go to ground is really good, because I remember Wesley Hoyt when he first came, and he just slide tackled for fun, didn't he? So I think there's a lot of positive signs with Bella-Kotchap.
Quite a level head. Stop chuckling, Steve. Early days, Steve, but 21 million for Lavia and Bella-Kotchap is looking like a decent bit of business.
Yeah, when do those release clauses kick in?
Let's enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and I think that's one of the key things with this transfer strategy, is that realistically, if those players do turn out to be as good as we think they are, they're probably not going to be around. We're probably not going to see the benefit of them for that long. But of course, we'll reap the financial rewards for it, and then be able to hopefully progress on to the kind of sort of next stage of it. But yeah, both of those have looked sort of absolutely at home from a very early stage, which I think we all probably expected it maybe to take up until the season break for the World Cup. for some of these players to be fully sort of up to speed and looking like a sort of key part of this team. But I mean, what are we? We're 4 games in now, and I think you more or less, I mean, you could almost sort of ink in probably 7 or 8 of that starting lineup now.
It's if you think back to Livramento when he came in last year and the way he hit the ground running, you kind of wanted him to be like that, but at the same time, that doesn't happen very often. But it seems like we've got the recruitment absolutely right so far, and some incredible additions that have hit the ground running. So it's really good to see.
You also, just a slight caveat to that, you also have to remember that Tino was running out of gas a little bit before he got injured. And if you look at like Salisu last season, first 10 games, he was great. And, you know, so this is the sort of thing that can happen with young players. Yes, they've made a very good start, but, you know, a word of caution because that, you know, it may tail off at some point. I mean, maybe the World Cup, assuming those players don't actually go to the World Cup,
could be a blessing in disguise, couldn't it?
Could be a bit of a blessing, so the young players can recharge a little bit before we get to the second half of the season.
The right thing at the right time.